Hi guys, I think it's been like 5 or 6 days. I got this shirt today and I'm gonna put it in my thumbnail so you guys can see it, but it says Normalize Therapy. And I had an appointment to get a bracelet fixed that broke like a super long time ago, either when I was in New York or right before I left for New York. And it's in the 2nd Street District in Austin. It's a store called Eliza Page. And it's a fine jewelry store, but they also have some like reasonably priced stuff as well. Anyway, I was walking to my appointment, walking back, came across this store that looked fun. Lots of like random Austin, gifty, trinkety kind of things. If you know me, it's like right up my alley. So I had about 15 minutes before my parking meter expired, so I decided to use that time wisely and go in and check it out. And I saw this shirt and I thought, you know, that's pretty badass. I am a huge proponent of therapy, talk therapy. And there are a lot of words that are still really taboo in society that I don't understand. It just so happens that a lot of those words relate to my life. Fatal car accident, trauma, traumatic brain injury, therapy, recovery. And now some of those words are all-encompassing for many different things. Sorry, my dogs are playing. But I think my point, or the point that I want to make, is there are things that shouldn't be taboo anymore because they're really mainstream. Lots of people go to therapy. There are lots of people that don't go to therapy or never have gone to therapy that should go to therapy. I wish they would go to therapy, mom and dad. It's, I don't want to be like one of those, oh, my therapist says people, but I've been in therapy for probably about 10 years, and it took me a really long time to settle in. When I went back to Texas State after my accident, which I guess I haven't really addressed, my trauma and my accident, that's for another video. But after this accident that I was in during college that was horrifying, I couldn't quite get back into the groove. Like, things just weren't happening the way that I thought they would. Things were coming more difficultly to me than I expected that they would. And that may be a different story in itself, but Texas State then, and I believe still now, has mental health services that are free for students. And my first attempt to go to therapy was there, and I don't think I was serious enough about it, but I went a few times and I thought it helped, but I turned to alternative, not so healthy methods instead. After I graduated, when I moved to Los Angeles, I sought out a therapist. My work schedule was just too crazy, and I wasn't, I guess, in the mindset that I really needed to be to participate in therapy anyway. Fast forward, I moved back to Texas. I'm working at Texas Oncology, and I start experiencing major depressive disorder, panic attacks, uncontrollable crying. For those of you that don't know, my last year at Texas Oncology was like living hell for me. not only was I dealing with my past trauma, I was in a very bad environmental situation for me, and my body basically began to shut down on me. And when I get really stressed, I wouldn't say triggered. I don't really get triggered, I don't very often get triggered, which I think is kind of strange. But yeah, anyway, I was going into and went into a very, very dark place. And I thought, this is not a way to live. When something begins to affect your everyday, that to me is like a siren, like you should do something. And so it was kind of amazing, and like maybe even a full circle moment, that we had a social worker on staff at my practice, and I went to her, kind of explained what was going on with me, and she gave me a list of vetted therapists that I could call that were for our patients, but also did marriage, family, personal relationships, all kinds of different therapy. And so I called, I called the first person on the list, left a message, never heard back. Called the second person on the list, and I think I had to leave her a voicemail, but called me back very promptly. And I went to see her within either a matter of days or like a week or two. And really loved the person that she was, and the approach that she had, and the different types of things that she tried to work with me to get through some of the issues I was having. But unfortunately, after what seemed like a few short months, it was probably longer than that, but her husband got a job opportunity in the Northeast, and it was like a too good to pass kind of opportunity. And so they moved to DC, and one of her former students that was going through her LCSW, was doing her clinical hours with a licensed psychologist. I want to say my first therapist, Anne or Annie. So anyway, my current therapist did her LCSW hours with my former therapist, and she said, I've known this woman for a while. I think you guys would vibe really well. I can give you some other recommendations, but let me give you her contact information. Reach out, see what you think. And that person has now been my therapist. How long have I lived here? 2000, yeah, for probably close to 9 years. It may even be more than that. I feel like she knows more about me than anyone. And I don't mean that in like an unhealthy way, but she is a non-biased, educated, intelligent woman that I can tell anything to without fearing judgment, being looked down upon. She gives great advice, strategy. She likes to talk through strategy about how to handle things. And my relationship with her over all of these years has moved more away from the trauma and my accident and the ramifications of that, and into my everyday life, going back to school, figuring out what I was doing in school, family, mom and dad, relationships. And I don't just mean male relationships, because let's be frank, there haven't been a lot of them, but friendships, I get to the point sometimes where I'm like, the common denominator of all of these things is me. And so maybe that's why, interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships, they haven't worked out. But she's the one to say, now wait a minute. Instead of jumping the gun, let's think about this rationally.